Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Morton versus Abernathy. It's my understanding, Mr. and Mrs. Morton, that you are suing Mr. Abernathy for rattlesnake bites to your hand from property that you recently purchased from him. You're asking this court for a total award of $330,000, and that includes $65,000 for medical expenses, $250,000 for pain and suffering, and $15,000 for snake removal because there are still snakes on your property. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And this is a video of the snakes on your property?
Yes, it is.
Now, Mr. Abernathy, you don't believe this is your fault because you said you didn't know that there were snakes on their property.
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is as big of a surprise to you as it is to them.
I had no idea.
Well, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, tell me how you all chose to buy this property.
Well, me and my wife, Kim, had been discussing having more children. We already have one 4-year-old. We found a beautiful house owned by the defendant.
What was special about this property?
From a woman's point of view.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes. Look at it. It's so perfect.
It
Have
is
the
beautiful.
perfect view. It's huge. I do want, 2, 3 more kids.
Okay.
And this was perfect. It has space for a pool, a huge front and backyard. I mean, it's 2 acres. It's beautiful. It's perfect.
Now, Mr. Abernathy, how did you come to even have this property?
Well, my family has had 5 acres of desert land all my life.
Okay.
And I needed some extra cash. So I took 2 acres of the land and I built this house on it. I agree. It's a beautiful house. It's perfect for a growing family. And I sold it to these folks.
So you're happy to sell them the property?
Absolutely.
What happened to the other property?
The other property I've kept for myself.
All right, so you all buy the house, right? And then what happens?
Well, a couple of weeks after we bought the house, my daughter, she's getting into soccer. She's 4. We went outside just to practice and play around, kick the ball around. And it rolled off. We're in the desert. You can see we have a lot of brush on our property.
Sure.
And the ball just, it got into some brush far away from me. I had to go chase it down. I didn't want her to go chase it.
Okay.
Well, I came over to the bush and I started reaching inside of it. I wasn't sure what it was right away.
Okay.
But I felt something just sink into my hand. I jumped back and I looked down at it and I could see there was a snake in the bush. I felt those fangs sink into my hand.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Snakes don't just bite people unprovoked.
Okay.
I mean, he would have had to have been messing with
Now that snake looks like it bites. Now, is this the
someone's
kind of
out there
snake that bit
provoking
you?
that problem.
Yes, Your Honor, it was a rattlesnake.
And you know what? They bought a house in a desert. There are going to
Okay.
be snakes there.
So
You're not going to have
just
polar
forget about the
bears in
balls?
the desert.
And so,
Yeah.
so being out in the desert, you owned this property. Did you ever see snakes out there before you sold them this property?
Not on this property, Your Honor.
Oh, you're
I
lying.
don't want to blame the victim, but it's definitely his fault if he got bit by
Well, let me understand this. You're out there with your daughter.
Yes.
You all are kicking the ball around. The ball goes into the bushes. You reach for the ball, and then what happens?
I didn't realize it was a snake at first, but looking back on it, that I felt those fangs sink into my hand, and it was just so painful. Immediately, I felt like I could feel a really terrible burning sensation that just started migrating all through my arm.
I could hear him screaming.
So
I
that's
was
how you knew
inside
something
the
was
house.
wrong?
Yes. I was inside the house and I could hear him screaming, the kind of scream that you just know something is bad.
My mom would say those are mommy's ears.
Oh, and yes, I knew my daughter was outside too.
Yes, she
So
was.
I ran outside and I see my daughter just paralyzed, staring at Daddy, and Daddy is bleeding.
So your
Your
little
Honor.
girl saw this.
Yes.
I was terrified for her to see that. There
No
was blood
kid
everywhere.
Should have to watch that. No kid should have to be in
Mr.
those
Abernathy,
circumstances.
How is this my problem? I didn't know there were snakes on that land when I sold it to them.
Mr. Abernathy, hold on for a minute.
Okay.
Now, you realize that he had a terrible snake bite, right?
I'm sorry.
With
got
his
that.
little girl watching. Now, you didn't know that there were snakes on his property, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Now, what was your idea of the property before you sold it in terms of whether snakes were on there?
I didn't know there were snakes on the property.
So, Mr. Abernathy, this is not your fault.
No, Your Honor. I did not know there were snakes on the property. They purchased the land, it's their land.
Did it surprise you that there were snakes on the property? You did say it was the desert.
It is the desert? Yeah, I've never seen snakes on that land. All the time during the construction, never saw one.
Now, you kept part of this property, right?
I did.
How about your property that you kept? Were there snakes on that property?
Can I show you?
Sure. All right, so which one is your property?
So this property is mine over here, 14. That's the 3 acres I kept.
Okay.
Number 13 is the property that I built the house on and sold to the Mortons.
The house that was shown in that photograph?
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor. So I will say that I have seen snake activity on these 3 acres in the
Okay.
past.
So he knew.
Now those are drawn like it's a bunch of snakes. Why that?
They're actually snake nests that are on this property. But, Your Honor, that's why I kept this property on my own. I sold them the property that had no snakes on it.
Your Honor, if he knew that there were snakes on this property, you should have had our property inspected.
The Mortons purchased this land fair and square. We had a contract. There could be snakes on any of that land.
Exactly.
It's
So
not
you're saying
my
that you
problem.
knew.
Now,
Not
Mr. Abernathy,
responsible for
I
every
saw-
snake in the world?
Mr. Abernathy, I saw the video. That's a lot of snakes. Look at that.
Yes, Your Honor, and I fully disclosed everything I knew about both the house and the property.
You said you knew
I've
there were
never
snakes.
seen
You didn't
snakes.
tell us that there were
I did not
snakes.
know that there were snakes.
You knew there
call
were
me a
snakes
liar
on
if you
your
like.
other 3 acres.
Order in this court.
Sorry.
Address your comments to me.
Snakes don't know where the line is. He knew there were snakes.
Mr. Morton, your injuries are pretty severe. Are you left-handed?
I am. Yes, sir.
You already have $65,000 in medical expenses.
It's piling
Tell me
up.
exactly what your injuries are. That's a lot of bills.
Okay, well, whenever we arrived at the hospital,
Yes, sir.
I went inside, I told them I was bit by a rattlesnake. They wasted no time giving me anti-venom.
It was swollen. He could barely breathe.
This is a shot of your hand? Mr. Abernathy, you see that, right?
I see it, Your Honor. I didn't bite him. I didn't stick
What-
my hand
what-
in a.
You might as well
That
have.
seems a little callous, though, right? I mean, this is a bad injury.
Your Honor, the money that they are asking me for,
That's your arm?
Look here.
the money that they are asking for from me for something that happened on their property will change my entire life. I can't afford this.
I've been told that I may lose my
You
hand.
understand that his entire life has
Look.
changed too, right? I
do.
want you to look at that. That is nasty. That is nasty.
I'm still undergoing surgeries today.
So, Mr. Abernathy, does this rock your heart a little bit? Whether you're responsible or not, this gotta touch you, right?
Sure, I'm sorry you got bit.
I
just
may
don't
lose
know how
my
this is
hand.
my problem.
You're not.
I just don't know how
You
this
don't
is
get the
my
concept.
problem. I sold you a house that's perfectly good, a perfectly good piece of land.
Look, he disclosed to you
Yes,
and
sir.
everyone in this room that there are snakes on our property that
Yes, sir.
he knew about.
And you agree with that, right?
No,
That-
no, Your
not
Honor.
that
I
you
did
knew.
not know that there were snakes on their property, the property that they bought. There are snakes on my property that I still own.
You knew there were snakes. You put my family at risk because you wanted cash. You're a greedy, inconsiderate, dishonest person.
So, Mr.
You're the
Abernathy-
closest
They're
thing to a
acting
snake.
like I took a snake and
You
threw it at me.
destroyed my family, and you need to pay.
Before any of the surgeries, I'm $40,000 in debt.
Anti-venom is expensive.
It sounds like
you
he needs-
see that, right?
Yes, but it sounds like he needs better insurance, Your Honor.
No, whoa.
Wait, hold on for a minute. Hold on for a minute. Where does that come from? He suffered a terrible injury. He could almost lose this hand. Don't you feel a little bit?
Your Honor,
Even if this isn't your fault, don't you say, oh, maybe morally I should have told him?
Your Honor, my eyes are starting to hurt from rolling so much. I mean, this is.
Oh, come on.
You know, your sarcasm makes me smell a snake in the grass.
Exactly.
I'm very sorry
You feel
that
bad?
he stuck his hand in the hole.
There's a reason you feel bad, and that's because you knew you should have told the truth.
Did.
This court has consulted an expert, Hope Bennett, who's a herpetologist, a snake expert. She's going to tell us a little bit about these rattlesnakes and how they live. So, Sheriff Matt, will you get Miss Bennett? Miss Bennett, come on in. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Hope Bennett.
All right, Miss Bennett, what does a herpetologist do?
They're actually responsible for just knowing more about snakes and how they work and their habitat and where they're found and be able to handle and understand more about snakes.
What are the risks to someone who's been bitten by a snake?
Well, the risk because they're hemotoxin, the venom will actually come from the sac, when it bites and goes into the tooth. And they'll bite quickly and let go, but it will shoot that venom into the bloodstream or around, and you'll automatically start, your blood will stop clotting, and you'll start having tissue necrosis. It will start kind of rotting the tissue.
Mr. Abernathy claimed that the property he sold to the Mortons, he didn't know there were snakes over there. Is that possible? That they stay on one side and don't go to the other?
They're going to be hunting for food, and they're going to go where food is available. And so they're also going to be opportunistic, and if there is that many snakes, they're going to move out and find new territory. Like if construction is happening and you're digging up holes, they're going to take advantage of those holes and look for new sources for food.
Do you believe that Mr. Abernathy would have no idea whether there are snakes on the property he sold to the Mortons?
Unless he did not walk his property at all or did not make his rounds, I can't see how he would not know that there were snakes on his property.
Mr. Abernathy, I was born at night, but not last night. Thank you, Miss Bennett. I appreciate you. You may be released. So, Mr. Abernathy, this is nasty stuff. Do you see why these folks have sued you?
Your Honor, I'm very sorry that he's going through pain. I'm very sorry they got bit. I'm sorry that they're going through all these things. However, we put the house on a 60-day escrow, which is much longer than normal. He had 60 days to look at the property. They had a home inspector come through, didn't see any snakes.
The house was perfect.
The house
The house is perfect.
They had a land surveyor come out and no snakes.
To mark our property line. He's not looking
So
for
they had
snakes.
people walking this property on their behalf and no snakes.
And I show you the document that they signed because they purchased this house as is, where is.
Okay,
Which
Sheriff
means
Matt, if you'll look at this.
it is now up to them.
As is, where is.
Yes, Your Honor.
You all signed a sales contract, right, to buy this house like everybody does when they buy a house.
Yes, sir.
The sales contract reads, the property is being sold, quote, as is, where is, which has legal significance I'm going to tell you about, end of quote. Such conditions include with all faults, end quotes, as of the offering, contract date, and as of closing. You all see that, and that's your signature on that document, Mr. Morton?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, y'all had this contract. You had an opportunity to read it, right?
We did.
Now, let me give you a legal lesson. Anytime you buy something as is, it is buyer beware. That is, you buy it in its current condition and you take into account everything that's there, known and unknown.
But I truly believe that he knew, and he chose not to tell us about the snakes.
There's no way that if he knew there were 3 large snake dens on his property, that he didn't at least suspect that there
I
were
understand
snakes
that.
on the
I
property
understand
that I
that,
purchased.
Mr. Morton. I do. Mr. Abernathy, you got snake dens on the property you kept. You understand you're under oath today, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
I want to give you one last chance to shoot straight with me. Did you know there were snakes on the property you sold these people?
Your Honor, I did not know that there were snakes on that property that they now own.
Sir, I don't say this often, but I think you're a liar.
Thank you, Lord. We deserve compensation. I may not heal from
Your
it.
Honor, I'm
Folks,
sorry
I've heard
for that.
enough, and I'm ready to render my decision. In every personal injury case, the plaintiff, you all have to prove that the defendant, Mr. Abernathy, did something wrong and that his wrong caused the harm to you.
Yes, sir.
Here, you all have proven that you didn't know snakes were on your property and you were bitten and suffered a terrible, terrible injury.
Yes, Your Honor.
You all been through a terrible ordeal. Frightened your little girl, changed your life, changed you as a daddy, a husband, a family. And my heart goes out to you. Here, you all have proven that Mr. Abernathy knew that there were snakes on his property and should have told you about the snakes on his property so that you would anticipate there being snakes on your property.
Yes.
You have shown $65,000 in medical expenses, terrible injury.
That's minimum.
You all want him also to remove the snakes from your property. You currently have dens on your property, right?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Abernathy, you believe that you didn't see snakes on the parcel that you sold them? You knew there were snakes on your part, but you never saw them on their part. They had people walking around there that could have told them. And had you seen snakes on their property, you would have told them about it, right?
That's right, Your Honor.
But you don't believe that this is your fault. Mr. Abernathy, throughout this case, I've taken note of your approach to your responsibility. I find that you are morally responsible. You should have told them. I find you're ethically responsible. That's just the right thing to do. I also find that you're personally responsible as a man selling something to someone else. However, the Mortons have not proven that you misrepresented anything and you sold this property as is, where is, and that legal term in your contract means something, and it means I must find in your favor, despite how much it pains me, and against you. That is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned. Our attorneys across America just viewed this case for the first time. Let's hear what Andrew Finkelstein has to say.
The video of the snakes in their den is what nightmares are made of. From what I saw, for this couple, that nightmare was real. But just because the harm is horrific and frightening, the plaintiff still had to prove the defendant's negligence caused the injury. Since they bought the property as is, it was their responsibility to fully investigate the property and find the snakes for themselves.